Late today, President Trump asked the Supreme Court to allow him to join the Texas lawsuit seeking to stop Joe Biden's election win. That after the Republican attorneys general of 17 states, led by Missouri, filed a brief supporting the Texas election challenge. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton telling Fox why his state wants to block 4 other swing states, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, from casting their electoral votes for Joe Biden. Watch this.
These elections in other states where state law was not followed as required by the Constitution affects my voters because these are national elections. And so if they're fraudulent activities or things that affect an election and state law is not followed as is required by the Constitution, it affects our state. It affects every state.
Joining me now exclusively, Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt, who says that his state is in the fight. General, thank you very much. Good to have you here tonight.
Good to be with you.
So, obviously, the polls show that there are enormous numbers of people across the country who feel the way you do, that there was something wrong with this election. And it was articulated moments ago by Ken Paxton that the laws that were changed in a lot of states prior to the election may have, their belief is that it was done unconstitutionally. Is that what you feel is the strongest argument here? And explain to everybody how you feel, what you think.
Yeah, and I think today, as you mentioned, Missouri, along with 16 other states, joined the fight for election integrity, and that's really what this is about. Free and fair elections are the cornerstone of this republic, and it's important that every legal vote is counted and every illegal vote is not counted. And if we don't do that, if we abrogate that responsibility, we disenfranchise millions of voters, including voters in Missouri, including voters in Texas and other places. And so the Constitution is very clear. The Electors Clause specifically grants to state legislatures the ability to designate time, place, and manner of those elections, right? Nobody else, just the legislature. So essentially, the claim here is that the laws were very clear in these states. And I'll use Pennsylvania as an example. Pennsylvania said, we're going to expand mail-in voting, but an important safeguard is that all ballots are counted on Election Day. Well, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, well, we don't actually believe that. You can count them 3 days after. Even if they're not postmarked on Election Day, we'll assume they were cast or mailed on Election Day. That's not what the legislature designated. In places like in Wisconsin,
well, let me just jump in on Pennsylvania, because the Supreme Court chose not to hear that case. And it seems, based on the logic that you're putting forward, and just on the principle that going forward, we want to make sure that all of the constitutions have been adhered to. Why did they shoot it down? Why didn't they hear it if it's such a good case?
Well, this is a little bit different theory. This is essentially that under the constitutionality, the Electors Clause, which designates the state legislatures to make those laws, the court changed it. Another example that's cited here is in Milwaukee, for example. In Democrat counties, they ignored the law and allowed voters in those Democrat counties to cure the ballots. They were open before Election Day. They weren't supposed to be able to do that. In Wayne County in Michigan, they just forgot about and ignored the signature requirement. What we know is, look, this is a bipartisan issue. The Carter-Baker Commission from 20 years ago said mail-in balloting creates the most opportunity for fraud if you don't have important safeguards, like counting them on Election Day and having signature requirements. All those were parts of the law in those states. They were just simply ignored. So the claim is that it violates the Electors Clause, is unconstitutional.
So what do you say to those? You can look on any channel, anybody covering this story, and they're just going to, throw cold water all over this. It's over. It's done. Get over it. Move on. What do you say to them?
Look, it's about this election, Martha. It's also about the integrity of our election process moving forward. If you have people who are not the state legislature, unelected folks or other elected folks, who can change the rules of the game in the middle of it.
But didn't they do it legally? They voted on it, right? I mean, and there were cases that were agreed to by the courts in all of those states. They had, I think, 75 cases across the country that were brought by the Democratic Party.
Well, that's the point, is that the state legislatures set forth the rules. These local counties, in many instances, ignored the law, and that has disenfranchised voters across the country. And that's why you see 17 states weighing in here. We're standing up for the voters in our state saying, look, this needs to be remedied.
Concerned about the future and about the fight and about the constitutionality of it. Thank you very much. Good to see you tonight.